sitting next to Maria, and she went over, and the lady knows everything about music. We'll talk to her later. Joe, I want you to meet Joe McCoy, who really invented the oldies format. Joe, I just want you to know that many, many happy years of my life, we spent how many years together? 20 some odd years, 24 years together. And I loved every moment of it. The newspapers made it sound like I was going to go back to CBS-FM when they announced that they're back. We're back! Whoa, they're not done. No. However, they're back with a new station. What they did, they used the call letters, they used the symbol, the logos, and the jingles. But they did not do what I felt I owed my audience, to bring back the heritage of rock and roll, music of the 60s and the 50s, and a little bit of the 70s. That's why, cousins, I did not go back to CBS-FM. I talked to them, and I really was considering for a while. I had another year to go on my contract, which I was going to fulfill with Sirius, until I found out what the format was going to be. Now, there's nothing wrong with this format, but it is not the station that I was on. The CBS-FM was part of this culture. They're doing a good job. They sound good. Bobby Shannon's there, and he sounds terrific. The music is fine, but it is not the music that I want to expose to my audience. And that's why I'll keep this flame alive as long as I have breath. And boy, I have a lot of wind in me, let me tell you. For this music will always live. That is the reason I did not go back. And I just wish them the very, very best, because I have a lot of friends and family still working with CBS-FM, including Maria and Chris and everybody else. So that should answer that question. Anyone who asks for a question, I'll give you a t-shirt just for asking. Right, let me go over here to the expensive seat over here. All right, you have the best seat in the house. But I want your first name. All right, and where you from, okay? And then ask the question.
Brooklyn, New York, near there.
Brooklyn, New York? Oh, that's my hometown. Brooklyn, New York. There's something about us. We have the strength. It's the water and the air. I'm telling you.
I heard you on Joey Reynolds and on Joe Hamburg yesterday. And I wanted to know, do you think the corporate heads will ever understand that it is the disc jockeys who were instrumental in making hits of songs?
Well, that's a kind of a good question, but it's a little more complicated than that. So everyone heard the question, right? Well, the guys that I call the SOBs, Sons of Business, the guys in the ivory towers, right? Ivory towers. You know, it's more complex than that, right? Well, it's not really the disc jockeys or the radio personalities, which I prefer, that make records. It's everybody. It's an audience. It's a radio station sound. It's the guys on the air and the audience, and of course the audience. So it's a combination. It's like a formula. What bothers me, will those guys in the ivory towers, the bosses, the guys who run things, ever understand that a generation that is past 48 years old is not ready to be buried? We are powerful, and that's before we get my nice shirt over here. We are powerful, we have the money, we have the knowledge, we have the experience. What are they saying? They want to have 20-year-old and 30-year-olds listening to their station. They listen to MP3s, they're not going to listen to that stuff, and that's what they want to pull. It is not 1948 anymore, that's what I keep telling these people. My dad, by the time he was 45 years old, he wanted to retire. Now, it's fine. As Jody and I have talked many times, if somebody wants to retire, that's their desire, their decision. How's that, Jody? No argument tonight. She argues with me all the time when I say a lot of people who do not want to retire when they're 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s should continue and should be served. There's nothing wrong with going for music for 30s and 20s. But what about the people in the 50s, 60s, and 70s? They deserve to hear part of their culture reserved. That's what it's about. Will they ever understand? I hope so. Because, boy, I'll never stop talking and writing about them and yelling about them and calling them every name I can within reason. Right. Of course you will not. They will understand, because when you don't like something, when you try something out, if you don't like it, New Yorkers especially, I told them this when they brought that stupid Jack format in. A wart on my tush. I mean, that is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. I have never heard anything like that. The most unemotional, uncharming, stupid, cheap. Ah, there's the word. Cheap. Cheap, 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 cheap. That's what it was. Cousin Brucie, hello. Maria, Chris heard this. Listen, buddy, you don't have to come in 45 minutes. We're changing the station. I said, what? All right, and we don't have to go into all that again. That's how I found out about it. They decided CBS-FM was expendable. We don't need this. Who cares about the people? You know, there's a great story, which I love to tell, if I may take a few moments. There's a story about these people not knowing what's going on outside. There was a story, an old myth about a king in this kingdom, and his subjects hated him. They wanted to kill him. They'd lynch him if they grabbed him. And he went over to his Grand Vizier and he said to him, "Grand Vizier, why do my subjects hate me? Why does everyone despise me?" And the Grand Vizier, very afraid of His Majesty, said, "Your Majesty, have you ever gone out in the streets to find out?" And he says, "Oh, that's disgusting. It's dirty out there." "Of course not." He said, "Well, Your Majesty, if I may be so bold, would you please let me dress you as a peasant? Put a little schmutz on your face, a little dirt." That schmutz is Latin, and those of you who don't understand. And let's go out to the street and find out why they hate you. 3 days later, they return. His Majesty gets back into his royal robes and says to his Grand Vizier, "Thank you very much. I now understand what the people wanted, why they hated me." And he became a very good king. If these people would only go out in the street and ask questions and not rely upon these stupid statistics from 1948, they might start listening. Anyway, we're all here today, and we'll never stop. We'll never stop. We're too strong.